just in case anybody didn't hear, my name's Rachel. I'm the online creative director. Pastor Donovan is our online pastor. We are your co-hosts today. But basically, we just missed everyone, and as a Team Church family, we've missed everyone. So we've created these meetup opportunities to sort of check in with the Team Church fam, see where everybody's at, especially in this crazy season, kind of see what's working, what's not working, take a peek behind the behind the scenes of Church Online. That's what this one is about, Church Online. And so we just kind of want to see what's working, what's not, and talk about what you want to talk about today, really. So this conversation is yours to own, yours to drive. Pastor Dono, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, don't forget, anytime you can add questions to the chat. We'd love to keep this conversation going with answers to questions that you have, or helping each other find the answers, because we don't have all of them, that's for sure. But yeah, really, whether you started out doing online because of the pandemic, or maybe you've been doing online for years, we just want to really kind of figure out how we can do things better. And I know that's why you guys are here as well. From Danny finding us on Instagram and seeing the post, and just curiosity, dives him in here. So we're glad to have you. So I guess the real question to start off with is what does it look like now, right? Pandemic, pre-pandemic, were you guys in your churches doing online prior to the pandemic? Or is this brand new to your church since COVID hit? Andrew? Or Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I just jumped on staff as the online pastor at a church. And the church previously had an online option, basically, is kind of what it was, to where, at one of their services, they just streamed on the app and streamed on Facebook. But now they see the online ministry as like a campus of the church. So, we have 4 physical campuses, and now they see the online ministries. So basically taking ownership of that. And so there was a pre-COVID online option, but now it's kind of like figuring out what the online ministry is going to be, now because of COVID and even post-COVID. And so I'm just excited to network with people because, I've been in youth ministry for a long time, and there's always a lot of youth pastors and youth ministers to network with, but there's not a whole lot of online pastors to network with. And so, that's pretty much why when I saw this post, I was like, this looks interesting. So I wanted to jump on it.
Great. Well, glad to have you.
That's really a shift that a lot of people have gone through, which is just sort of having an online broadcast that's kind of a window into what's going on at a physical location to this is an actual location. This is a campus of our church. Is there anybody else that's kind of in that boat where your online is a location of your church right now? Awesome. Really cool.
That's really cool. We're experiencing the same thing. Just so you know, like we've had an online option for years. We had for years. It's always been a vision of our pastor to have a thriving online community that expands, across, zip codes. One of the things I love about online is we're not tied to a zip code. Like you're not tied to, like, I live in Yakima, and so we've got like 98901, 02, 08, 03. And so like we're not tied to any of those. Like it expands all across the globe. But I think our pastors always had a vision for it. Felt like he was casting vision, and felt like it always just kind of gets stuck on the side of the shore and never really able to really become always what he wanted it to be. And then when COVID hit, it was like definite intention. In fact, we have a saying we say around here now, it's digital first. And so our goal is 100% digital first. And it's interesting because it's not everybody's take that are used to physical locations, or it's not everyone's stance, but what we all know that work in the online space is that anything you can do online, you can duplicate in a physical service, right? But not everything you do in a physical service can be duplicated online and relationally. Like, hey, everybody, you just gave your life to Jesus. We want you to go out to the big tent in the lobby. Doesn't really translate well. And so you just said that online, and hopefully you've got thousands of people tuning in that now have no call to action. And so coming up with a digital first strategy, though, allows you to be able to say things, communicate things clearly that gives everybody a place to land, and it communicates across the board. So we're learning that right now, that digital first is the new plan. But what about you, Andrew? What's that look like for you guys?
We basically offered a video podcast on YouTube that was produced in the afternoon on Sunday and pushed out. But so COVID, we had never done like a pre-produced online service before ever. And then in July, we made the shift to doing live stream for the very first time. So all of this is completely brand new for us. And I mean, the thing that I always kind of come back to, kind of what you said, Danny, is there's a lot of churches who are great at planting new locations and like have like statistics that you look for. They have like the model that they use, but for planting an online campus, I feel like I've yet to find someone who like a church that like that nailed it, or like has like the doc, if that makes sense. So I'm really interested to get with people who are planting online campuses right now and see what's working for them and everything with that.
That's great. All right, Genesis, go for it. Andrew Hansen.
Hi. So we've had like the transition, like before COVID, we would post our services on YouTube to watch a couple days later. And, we encouraged that. And that was kind of the extent, I'd say. I mean, would you guys agree? That was kind of the extent of our online presence. I mean, other than social media. So we went live we started doing live production in, was it June? So we started doing live production. So live, 2 services live, and then a replay in the evening. All of our small groups went on to Zoom. So we actually had a pretty good, robust small group. We've been in our small groups for like 3 years almost. Really solid, same groups. And then we went to Zoom and then slowly watched them kind of trickle down. And we had been feeling like a change needed to happen with the small groups anyway. Just something new. So they hired me full-time in August 1st, and then my wife as well. So we're the online campus pastors, but we planted a campus on Facebook. So we launched our Facebook campus 5 weeks ago, something like that. September 13th, we launched our Facebook campus. Right now, we're about 270 or so people on our Facebook campus. And then we go live pretty much daily on there. So we have live prayer rooms. I interview Pastor Josh on Mondays. Every Thursday, we have a thing called It's Almost Friday Live. So I'll interview someone from either our church or the church world. So we play games, and then we're really encouraging. We have a prayer team for that, and we encourage them to post throughout the week. So we have a lot of interactive posts and stuff. So we're really trying to make our Facebook campus like an all-week church. So we still go live on Sundays. We do watch parties and stuff like that. Our 6:00 service is Facebook only. And then our Facebook group is like, you have to be, agree to the rules and join the group. So I don't know if you guys have read From Social Media to Social Ministry by Nona Jones, but we're really trying to sort of adopt that. And then figure out as we go. Like we've already like pulled the plug on a bunch of stuff and we're revamping stuff. But like next week we're away at staff retreat. So our Thursday show is going to be like a newlywed game with the staff, and that'll be live and people can like comment in. And so we're really trying to, we're kind of like, our mantra is like live is community. And so we're trying to do as much as we can live and interactive with people throughout the week. And still figure it out as we go, because broadcasting is great and we love broadcasting, but to really feel like we're a church campus, we're trying to integrate community as much as possible. We launched the Alpha program 4 weeks ago. So when we kind of put our small groups on the back burner, we launched Alpha for the first time. So we do Alpha, and that's kind of part of the ministry of our online campus as well.
Are you using units in Facebook for Alpha?
We are using units, and which is kind of cool. So we've Pastor Josh has got a few units that we've got going right now, and then we'll add like a new module to a unit probably once a week or two. But that's all exclusive to the Facebook campus. So if you're not on the Facebook campus, you don't get those units. So it's kind of it's fun, and
that's dope.
Us working and some it's not, but we're getting there. It's been cool.
I love it.
Don't be surprised if you get a phone call from Dono in the next week.
Don't be surprised at all.
We're doing a shift in 2021. We're gonna, rather than trying to, I think, multi-purpose our growth track content, we were kind of making sure that, like online and on site were covered in our content for growth track. We are probably going to customize a little bit more, and that's going to include putting growth track in, making it available through units in
That's
Facebook.
cool.
It's something
Yeah, that's
we're
great.
looking at trying. So I love that you guys are.
Yeah, we want to do that as well. It's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it, love it. You will be getting a call. It not might be, you will be. So it will be happening. So let's see. What about you, Jay Humphrey? What's online like been for you so far?
Well, what's up, everybody? I'm in a very strange environment in that when COVID broke out, I was at Hope City and was responsible for figuring out how to turn all of our campuses into some sort of digital engagement. And that was fun and learned through all of that. And now in the season, several months later, I've transitioned off of staff and really just tuning in here to continue to build relationships with Team Church. Honestly, just to pick your brains to see what's going on, see I've already heard 6 or 8 things that I had never heard of or considered before. So I'm taking lots of notes. And one of the relationships we believe we're about to walk into that we've been preparing for a couple of months may put me in this digital sphere. So honestly, I'm just trying to get ahead of the game a little bit to figure out what I don't know, which is a lot.
It's
Good club to be a part of
right now.
Right?
Yeah, it's all of us right now. It's a good club to be a part of. That's great. I love that.
That's why I just literally love being with all of you, because it's like, what's everybody trying? What's working? What's not working? Let's learn from each other's mistakes instead of, like, if we're gonna make ones, let's make original ones, right?
Exactly. What about Adam? What about you, man? What's online been like?
One of the biggest things that I think that we've done is just really being intentional during the week, but not overloading people. So we've started doing our small groups online. And again, we do that with Pastor Jakin so that he does a thing called Word Wednesday, which has definitely shown a bunch of growth. And now that we're able to meet in person, we still do that. We still connect with people, and yet at the same time still have that kind of online presence, which I think has been really, really, really vital to just kind of where people are at today. And, the thing is like that we're finding is everybody's at a different spot, in a different place, at a different comfort level. So it's trying to find and evaluate where people are at so that you can reach that need. And so that's, I think, one of the things that we're trying really, really hard and being intentional about is just where everybody's at and trying to connect those people that feel that same way together so that there's common ground with them. So our online experience, I would say, is probably not super focused as like we're going to go completely online 100% of the time, because there's always that need for connecting on a physical level. And so we've kind of then changed and morphed back to, let's try to get people back into the house of God, because that's where strength is. That's where people, find that relationship. They get out of that isolation, which is a huge thing that we've seen right now. In Canada, they say, because that's where I'm at right now, is we have had more deaths related to opioid overdoses than we have any form of COVID. So what we're seeing is people are just so isolated and depressed. So whatever we can do to instill hope in there is where we want to go and where we want to reach. And we're definitely seeing some really good fits.
So good. I love that, Adam. That's great to hear. So there's some great questions coming in. Basically, like we've all talked about, we're all in interesting situations with online. We are currently doing, just to give an idea, we're currently doing what I coined last night, like an Oreo method. It's been fun. So we were all live, 100% live up until about fall of last year. We made a switch to start doing some hosting offsite. So we would do hosting during the week. So Rachel and I would drive over to our broadcast location, and me and Rachel would meet up. We would film host segments during the week, like on a Tuesday. And we would try to meet the moments of what were going to happen on Sunday and do our best to try to engage with people and hit those marks. And then COVID hit, and we went all pre-produced. So we had always struggled with some sound issues online, and it always felt like it was never quite where we wanted it to be. And so we took COVID as a chance to say, how could we re-envision this? How could we reimagine this? And what we did is we dove into doing what we're calling worship captures. We actually have one this Saturday night. And what we do now is we'll capture, a month's worth of worship content in about 6-7 hours. And we'll capture that. We have a guy that we have grown to love, and he's just a great audio engineer out of Life Church in Oklahoma. We don't want to give you his name, but we will because we love all of you. But we gave his name out in the beginning, and a lot of churches tapped into him, and then it made our process a little slower. And so we were like, do we want to be stingy? Or do we? No, we're Team Church. We'll give it to you. So what we do is we send it off to him, and then he mixes them down. And what we do is we basically he'll mix down all the worship and then give it back to us, and we'll marry it up with the video from the worship capture. And now we have that. So for the first, few months of COVID, we were literally all pre-produced. Pastor Kevin would come in every Thursday. We would capture his message, and we would put the whole service together, and it would be as excellent as we could make it, and we would send it out. Now we're doing, pre-produced worship, pre-produced hosting, a live message, and pre-produced hosting at the end. And that's kind of the nature of where we're at. So it's exciting to hear where all of you guys are. But right now, let's dive into some of these questions that are flying in. Rachel, why don't you pick one?
Oh, this is a good one. We can, if you guys have input or something that's different than what somebody else has said, pop in, just unmute yourself and pop in. But what are some of the volunteer positions that you have for people to serve online? So for us, we have chat hosts, obviously. We have prayer partners. We have watch party hosts. Those are the big three right now for us. Beyond that, and right now we're looking at expanding like our graphics team and maybe crowdsourcing some of our graphics. Got some inspiration for that, but that's going to include creating a lot of boundaries as far as like style guides and just equipping people with what they would need. So that's kind of our next volunteer opportunity. What about y'all?
Well, again, for us with the Facebook campus, we're still trying to figure out what it looks like. So trying to figure out how to schedule people or how to ask people to be involved was tricky. So what we sort of settled on when we launched was we just call them like an online support team. So we get on a Facebook room. I have like a separate, like a private room. So it's just that group. There's 9 of us. And Monday morning, we get on at 7 a.m. and we just talk about the week, and we pray together for about a half hour and just kind of go into the week ready. And then I sort of ask that team to be like kind of culture carriers in that space. So I ask them to get on like 4 or 5 times a day, just for 5 minutes. I'm like, when you normally pick up your phone, open Facebook, go to the campus first, respond to people's comments, like their comments, show up to like 1 or 2 of our live things throughout the week. And then I ask them to post at least once a week, something original for discussion for the group, stuff like that. So we're still trying to get that dialed in. And as we go, I think we'll figure out how that looks, because I'm learning that some people aren't as, need a little more structure than that. And so trying to figure out how to like structure that out. But that's more of a team that I would invite into that space, rather than just make it known that anybody could volunteer in that space. So, but that's been great because I can't be on there 24/7. And then another thing I asked them to do is to watch for anything inappropriate and let me know. I just keep saying they're carrying culture and helping develop culture, because it's a brand new campus. And then prayer has like been a really big part of that. And then I think other than that, we're trying to figure out what we need on that space. And then for chat, we have chat hosts and we have admins. Our Facebook chat hosts are a little different than our Brushfire chat hosts. Just because Facebook, anyone could show up. So maybe have to tell a little bit more. I think that's about all we have for right now.
That culture creator piece is huge. That is something that we don't advertise, but have intentionally done on site and online. On site, that looks like having people who carry our culture sitting in the front row and modeling what we want worship to look like, responding to messages, things like that. Same exact thing online. So being active in the chat, knowing our language, just creating exactly that, creating the culture that we want to see. We've created a lot of momentum with that with our staff. Early in COVID, we assigned our staff members, I think each person had two services that they would attend, and then we assigned them a platform so they could participate in the way and create that momentum. And then once that picked up, once everybody went back to serving on location, when we could reopen our doors partially, the momentum was there, and it was, the culture had been created, which was great.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. What about anyone else? What kind of, you guys have different roles that you guys are currently using or utilizing in your online locations?
So for us, we kind of do a hybrid version. So we've also started doing all of our recording on Thursday nights, and we do the same thing. We send it off, and then on Sunday it comes in. So on Sunday, we have still people live in the auditorium, live in the actual physical building itself, even though our message and stuff is the exact same message, but it is recorded from there. So we run a full AV kind of spot. We run camera guys, we run, media creation right there, any kind of service production right on site, which has definitely kind of helped fill our team a little bit more with spots and positions and places for volunteers to actually just feel welcome and still needed. That's the biggest thing. It's just, as long as people feel needed and called upon, it doesn't really matter where they're at and where they're serving right now. It's just, they feel that need to be wanted and loved.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's
great.
How about the onboarding process? What's that looking like for people? Donna, you can talk about ours maybe.
For us, we have two kind of, we have two. One of them I call stealing. I'm just kidding. I don't really call it stealing, but here's the truth. Not everybody's ready to come back, right? So we're in a season in our areas of our physical locations where COVID has been a hot spot for a while, and there are people who are just uncomfortable coming back to the physical locations yet. Some of them were high capacity volunteers. And so there are some of them that we are shoulder tapping during the season and saying, hey, you've expressed that you're not quite ready to come back yet. We still want you to stay engaged. And so we're onboarding them a little bit differently than we would someone else. Right now, what we're doing is with Growth Track, we've been doing an online version of Growth Track. Rachel alluded to it here just a little bit ago that we're going to be revamping it in 2021. We are actually doing session 4. Our last session will be this Sunday, and that'll be where people can join the team. There's 6 people that are currently in Growth Track right now that are signed up to join our online team from really all over the place, which is really exciting. So once they complete Growth Track, we will onboard them onto the team, and we're going to do similar to what Andrew Hansen said that they're doing at Genesis. We'll get them right into community. We do a pre-service huddle on Sunday at 9:00. And when we do that, we basically bring them in, we pray together, we talk through the day, we talk through, hey, what are you guys facing? What can we help you with? And then we go over what today's going to look like, how that's going to function. And then we cut them loose and let them go. And so we'll be doing the same thing. We'll onboard them into chat hosts. We just did my biggest passion right now is onboarding people into watch parties. It's my biggest geek out thing we could do is to be able to create more watch parties, right? So we just did an online watch party interest meeting this last weekend on Zoom. It was great. We're launching a watch party in Scottsdale, Arizona. Nowhere near one of our physical locations. We'll launch another one in Hollywood. We have a couple in California. And so we have opportunities to onboard people on that way. So that's kind of what that process looks like. But what about you guys? What's your onboarding process for volunteers looking like?
Pretty similar, we are, or that is something that we are still figuring out.
For us, I can go. We have started making Growth Track. We rebranded it into calling it Essentials.
Cool.
And we're making all of that on demand on a non-clickable part of our website. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like these Zoom calls. We're making it registration, and then you get the link to it once you've registered. So that way we get their information. But you can only find the registration through a personal connection through a team lead. So we're literally just launching this in November, December. So I have no idea how it's going to go, but we've been just like literally just doing personal connections, and then here's our culture guide and good luck. But we're going to hopefully do something a little bit better with assimilation and onboarding here soon.
I love the on-demand nature of that, just because online, we're literally dealing with different time zones at this point. Yeah. So having a specific time for things has been a bit of a challenge for us. Hey guys, keep popping in the chat. Andrew Shaw asked what streaming platform everybody's using, and kind of what you like about it. A few of you have chimed in, but keep going with that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. We're using Resi, Living is one, so we're loving it.
For us, with our kind of onboarding volunteers, like everyone else, still kind of figuring out positions. Right now, our two main positions are a studio host and a social host. And so people who are signed on from the church's account on our like on YouTube and Facebook for online stream, who are talking on behalf of the church. Then we have people planted basically who are just there as greeters and hosts. But we do a live stream of our broadcast campus, but we just provide a pre-show and a post-show to kind of personalize people who are watching online a little bit. And that's been really good, especially for the invitation time. It's kind of now in sync with the person's preaching at our broadcast campus to have a cue that before they do invitation or next steps for the people in person, there's a cue that send it over back to the studio to allow the studio host to provide, invitation to respond or next steps or anything like that. And it feels like we've seen a huge response just by personalizing even the invitation. Has been awesome for us. And so, but rather than it being me doing that all the time in the studio, I'm now training other people to kind of, go after that as well. So yeah, we don't do pre-recorded. There are moments where I wish we did, because I feel like it smoothed things out a whole lot better. But it is, trying to keep the gap of physical and online church together a little bit. I think has been good.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
This is a good.
These are great questions. Go ahead, Rich.
I see another good one in here. For people that are open again at physical locations, what's some of the language that y'all are using to encourage people to come back on site if they're ready, but still not leaving online community in the dust, making them still feel a part of the church family? I know that can be a tension.
Well, we've for joining in person, obviously, like if you're comfortable and we're letting them know we're distancing, we're masks, we're keeping everything very clean. So we're communicating that. But then also making the positivity of being able to join from home. And we record separate hosting. So like when we go live, when the service ends, we kick out to a pre-recorded online host. So if you're watching online, it's more of a curated online hosting and announcements. So then we talk about the Facebook campus, and I've been trying out like a digital lobby. So like after the service is over, we go live in a room on Facebook. So it's kind of like walking out into the church lobby. You can jump on a digital lobby, and then we can like talk and pray for each other, answer any questions. It hasn't really taken off a ton yet, but we've had a few people show up and we're able to kind of interact that way. So we speak to both spaces, and we're trying to do that as best we can, but emphasize too that the online space isn't just for Sunday. But if you are joining Sunday online, don't do it alone. We talk about doing a watch party or invite someone in your neighbor to your house and have bacon and eggs and watch church together. So we're really trying to talk about the benefits of that, because some of those people aren't in Spokane and they never will be. And we don't want them to feel like when COVID's over, we're done with them, So we're trying to create the weekend community, but also the week-long community. And then for people who are in house, then we, our pastor's just been kind of wrapping up with his own wrap up for that space that makes people feel like it's a benefit to be there too for that. So.
Yeah.
I love it. We announced it from the beginning because we were trying to find the verbiage. Basically, in essence, like we love this question, and we've been trying to find the verbiage, and so we settled on we're coming together in 3 ways. So there's a chance for you to attend in person. You can continue to attend online, or you can join us at a watch party. Me and Rachel selfishly are waiting for the tailgate watch party That's what we're waiting for. Like, we can't wait for the tailgating watch party. You know, like Seahawks play at 1 and they do church at 10 and they have all the tailgating food. And I promise you, we will be at that watch party eating the barbecue, recording all of it, of course, for future online purposes. But yeah, that's kind of how we do it. And I love how you said that, Andrew. Like, we and Danny as well, like trying to break that fourth wall is what we call it around here. So Rachel can speak to more of that, but we really try to connect with people where they're at. You know, some of the examples of that is you have people chatting, you know, every week and capitalizing on what they're praying for, what they're asking for prayer on. And so we'll do things like we have our chat hosts kind of copy and paste into a Google spreadsheet what people are praying for, and they mark them whether or not they were public or private, so that we're not airing someone's private stuff. But we'll know now, like, let's say if Danny's on chat with us and he asks for prayer for his mother who has COVID, we genuinely pray for his mother who had COVID. And then after that, next week, we're checking in with Danny and being like, hey, Danny, how's your mom? We just broke through that fourth wall of communication. We took it from this digital space to a genuine connection. And then when they share that praise report next week, we take a note of that and we'll mention it in our hosting. We'll talk about it. We'll say like, hey, we love how our online community is there for each other and praying for each other. And we're seeing God do great things, like Danny's mom who just recovered from, you know, I hope your mom doesn't get COVID, Danny. That's not what I'm saying. But
same thing with even it's great to blend it into some of the communication or calls to action in service through hosting. So if we're saying that, you know, our prayer partners are available for you either privately or right there in the chat, we're also throwing in that, you know, Marlena, we know that you had surgery last week. We hope that really went well. Our staff has been praying for you all week. And that makes people feel seen and more open to jumping in there themselves. Praise reports, using a worship moment setup, like not just like, oh, we're going to jump back into worship, but talking about people where they are in their living rooms, or if they're in their car, if they haven't even made out of their bed yet, or if they're in a hospital bed, like just kind of painting those verbal pictures for people to take them not necessarily like they feel like they have a window and that they're participating in what's happening in the auditorium, but also that it's extended into their own space. We throw names out of people that have given their life to Jesus recently all the time, trying to keep that in front of people. We tell a lot of stories of people that have had experiences from our online community. So we've also tried to give our pastor verbiage from the platform. To use. So say, instead of saying like, hey, can I just get an amen? Say, hey, throw an amen in the chat. So just to sprinkle things in there throughout to make online not feel left in the dust, but very much so at the forefront of what's happening.
We have fun doing it too. Like we have one of me and Rachel's favorite moments is we have a lady, it's funny on chat. Sometimes they have nicknames, right? And so like we had Little Debbie join us. And when I think of the name Little Debbie, I think of like Hostess cupcakes and stuff. And so Little Debbie joined us in the chat every week from Pennsylvania. And so we were making a watch party push. And so we called her out online and we're like, Little Debbie, we see you in Pennsylvania every week. We'd love to have you start a watch party in Philly. That would be amazing. And then she direct chatted us back in the moment and was like, I was a part of Champion Center for like 15 years. And I just moved here to be closer to my grandkids. Maybe I could start a watch party. And so it's just fun ways to stay engaged with people in those moments. It's a blast.
How do you help people respond from an online platform through baptism and Lord's Supper?
We have done communion online. So we've done that. And what we do is it's interesting because some people will look at this funny and let me explain, but some people will say things like, communion is such a sacred thing, right? The elements aren't sacred. The process is sacred. And so we'll tell people things like grab some coffee, some juice, some crackers, some bread, a donut, whatever you have. The point is you can join us in doing this. So we've done it before. We haven't done it recently, but we've definitely done that before. And then in baptisms, this is actually really exciting, but I think I might have told Rachel, but in a meeting yesterday, we just announced we're doing baptisms on December 13th. And so the good news is we're figuring this out right now. And I have sent emails to some watch parties that are in the area and like, hey, do you got anyone in your watch party that's expressed interest in being baptized? Because we'd love to show up at the watch party and do a baptism at the watch party. But true story, we have a lady in our church named Hantoya. Hantoya's family grew up in our church. Hantoya they moved away. Hantoya went through an interesting season in her life and started watching on YouTube again, and then gave her life to Jesus on May 28th, watching on YouTube at like a 6 p.m. replay, and then reached out to Pastor Kevin's social media on Instagram, DM'd and said, Pastor Kevin, I just gave my life to Jesus online. I want to get baptized. And so we happened to be doing a night of hope and healing at the Tacoma location, and we invited her and we surprised everyone right after service and did a baptism, whether we were supposed to or not because of COVID restrictions or not. That's not the topic of this conversation, right? The point is we're trying to figure out ways to help people make those decisions. And so the answer to your question is that we'll figure out whatever we got to do to help people make those steps.
Hey, everybody. Down here in San Antonio, Texas, hanging out with my son for lunch. So sorry, I haven't been very chatty, but I'm so grateful for all the thoughts that I'm hearing around the live stream campus talk as well, and keeping people in community. We're right at the beginning of going back to in-person services within the next 3 weeks, because we've also had right here toward the end of, well, wherever we're at in the timeline of the pandemic, but we've been moving buildings as well at the same time. We found a new location. So I've been leading the charge with the tech team for stripping out all of the production gear from the old building and moving it into a new building. And so that's created a little bit more of a challenge for us as well, recording in temporary spaces and stuff like that. But we're renovating right now, and that's cool. But we're right here, like I said, at the beginning of formulating how we're going to make the online audience feel just as connected, specifically for that campus and that format versus the in-person audience. And so some of the things that we have been talking about is pre-recording our pastor's message and worship moments separately from making it feel like the in-person experience. And so that way they know this was designed specifically for me. And so even with our announcement type, we've really had kind of like the Team Church conference vibe for our live stream for the past 7 months, which is like the red carpet, live MCs, the step and repeat banner, and all of that high energy worship and all that. And so we're really thinking about shifting our focus now in those pre-recorded segments to be more just like vision and story oriented, specifically for the live stream. That way the pastor can pre-record. He knows that I just spoke directly to the live stream audience. And now when I'm in person, I can speak directly to the in-person audience. So we haven't worked every little nuance out, how we completely separate those two things, but those are some of our initial thoughts. And so I thought I'd present those.
Love it. I think that's great. That's really cool.
That's the nice thing about online is we can just break it and rebuild it any way we want to. There's so much flexibility, especially with being able to pre-record. That's what I know one day we're going to go back to being fully live. One day. We're not there. In the meantime, we've got a lot of flexibility. I have a question. For people that are doing worship live, what are some steps that you've taken to make the quality there, like to meet the mark quality wise? Because Lord knows if you just throw the front of house mix online, it is not going to be there.
Yeah, one thing we did, and this is not me at all, this is like our production team who kills it. But we made a studio that is a separate board. And so the board from the main worship center feeds into that board. And there's actually another sound guy now in the studio that's doing the mix specifically for the online campus. And so before, it used to just feed straight through. And it was one of those moments where like our executive pastor didn't really see a need for that. And then what they did was they said, this is what our in-house worship sounds like. And this is what it sounds like when someone watches on YouTube. And it showed them what it was. And it was really bad. Very just bare and basic. So he approved, this whole like studio renovation for the online campus. And so now we have the board that directly mixes for the online, stream. And it's been a huge jump because our church for like the first 2 months during COVID was just directly going from the board, and it wasn't great. Like I said, it was just the option. But now, that's just a huge benefit of kind of the situation I get to be a part of, is they're taking a lot of ownership into making it well and really trying to match the level of excellence that they do everywhere else as a church. And so that's something we did. I don't know all the details of how all that works, but I just know they did that, and it's been fantastic.
I love that. For anybody else that's running a back of house board, do you have any tips and tricks on fine tuning that?
So for us, what we've done as well is we've actually always been a separate broadcast mix, but you have to understand it from a technical side. You're also running a bunch of people that are so known to do front of house, and front of house is a completely different way on mixing, that different style. So what actually we figured out as well, and then to go back a little bit more, think about the singer. The singer now has to think, I have to engage my audience that's in front of me. I have to lead worship. I have to continue to hit these parts exactly where it's at. And then I have to also try to be on pitch. That's almost too much for a person to do. So what we've been doing in the last little bit too, and just been playing around with it, because I don't think that it's sustainable to do a pre-record and send it off every single time. So if we could do some of these things, and you record it anyways in a digital audio workstation, so why not just throw on some of those plugins anyways, and then compensate for the latency of your sound later on? So what we've been starting to do is do like a little bit of Melodyne or a little bit of auto-tune and pitch correction, just to help your singer stand out from the mix.
And finding that balance is of how much Melodyne is too much Melodyne, especially when you have people doing like some vocal acrobatics, and it tries to decide where and when to pitch correct. That's super.
So
fun.
the vocal acrobatics from my side, and just from like doing sound a fair amount, is the idea of a background singer is, I don't want you to stand out and to be crazy personal. You're there to back up and push people forward. You're there to push your part. So if I need to say, hey, you know what, can you just tone down your melodic awesomeness that you think that you have going on, just for seeing the bigger picture. And I think, again, the biggest thing is we always look at the role from our point of view, not from the role of the person that's after us that needs to do stuff. So for us, I want to think about not how I would mix, but how the pre-production guy really wants stuff. So the way that I would want it is very different from his side. And that helps the end game just be that much better, because you're coming at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
Does that make sense?
Great tips. Yep. I love that. I love that. Sound is definitely the fun game to play in the online community. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Some other great questions. Watch party kit.
Yeah,
yes.
watch parties.
Yes, and yes. We were actually geeking out last night a little bit about our watch party kits. We're really excited. We are finalizing those just with some fun stuff to put in them. Also digital versions and physical versions, sending them a packaged branded box that has, a parking sign. Anybody seen any political signs outside lately? No? Okay. Me neither. So one of those essentially with the watch party and information on it. So yeah, doing some of those things, including mints and cards and invites, and just trying to find the fun things to throw in the box. To say we value your investment in reaching people, and like we say at Champion Center, moving life forward for people, but also just creating some fun things that we can provide them that'll be helpful and beneficial. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a card in there that's going to have like QR codes to things like salvation follow-up, first-time guests, or like we're probably going to do a text code, but probably throw a code in there as well for just reporting. We want to make our attendance reporting as easy as humanly possible for our watch party hosts. So if it's text host to 97,000, which is typical for our church, that kind of thing, we put together a playlist for our watch parties. And so there'll be a Spotify code that they can pick up on and basically make it feel more champion center. One of our promises is that we express life. And so environments are super important to us. So things like, we've even thought about things like smells. So throw a candle in there to make your space smell great. It's going to sound great. It's going to look great because we're going to offer, the digital downloads or a bunch of different things like that. So I'd love to hear what other people are putting in their watch party kits.
It's in our plan, but we just threw out the idea, but I've, love the ideas that you just threw out right now.
Love it. Love it.
We did do that, actually. We've been trying to build our watch parties into something we're calling community services, to build bigger groups, to then try to go back to in-person gatherings, because we're trying not to do simultaneously watch parties and online and in person. We're trying to just do online and in person. We're still in the phases of that, obviously, but we did a bunch of different things in our watch party phase. Obviously, toilet paper and paper towels and all the stuff that you find, right? That was fun. Candles for sure. For our community services, we actually did gift cards for people to get their house cleaned. We just felt like those guys were holding down the fort. So we're like, here, whatever we can do to make it easier for you. Little thing when we managed our community services, which was a smaller number of watch parties, because we combined watch parties together, we actually provided a sound bar for anybody that didn't already have one. We're big on environment too, and we're big on it being very loud, so you can't awkwardly hear yourself sing. So we were like, please let us buy you a sound bar. So obviously that was a smaller scale and numbers so that we could do that financially. But our people that were hosting community services, between the gift cards and the candles and decor for their houses, they just felt really honored. So, but knowing we could only do that for a short amount of time and a limited number of people.
That's so cool.
Obsessed with that. I can't tell you how many people went and bought sound bars when we went into quarantine.
True story. Rachel being one of them.
Yeah.
She texted me like week 2 of COVID and was like, which sound bar do I pick, A, B, or C? And
the amount of times I've texted Donovan, like, what gear do I need in my life? Just send me links.
It's funny. I love that you're doing sound bars and stuff like that. It's amazing. We were really excited. We have a person in our church who's a rep for a pretty big coffee roasting company that does national coffee. And she did some custom blend for us at Champion Center for winter. And so we're including like a pound of coffee in their kit. And I'm all excited about that. And now you got sound bars. So I guess I need to go to the store, Rachel, and buy some sound bars to send to some people. But I think it'd be fun to answer just a couple more questions before we dive out. So does anybody got any other last minute questions that we can try to help you answer, or someone else can answer while we're here?
While you think on that, I would love to just stay in touch with everybody. So if y'all want to drop your IG handles into the chat, let's stay in touch.
Maybe I can, if someone has like a burning question, like just stop me. But what's like the most important metrics that you guys are measuring engagement with? Is it chat? Is it Facebook likes? Like, what are the kind of measurable things that aren't attendance that are people taking next steps online?
For us, right off the top and quickly, for me, it would be whatever you choose, stay consistent with what you chose. And the reason why is, like, you can choose devices, you can choose views, you can choose all the different numbers that all the companies get you. At the end of the day, we do a website, YouTube, and Facebook, and all 3 of them track differently. And all 3 of them look at numbers completely differently. And I really don't trust any of them, if I'm being completely honest. So what we did is we picked the ones that we felt was most accurate to our goal of being able to gauge success. And we're going to stick with those from now until forever, until something better comes along. But I think the end goal is stick with the one that is the most consistent. Obviously salvations, things like that, but we found ones that are consistent for us, and it's devices. And then we're running those same ones consistently. What about the rest of you?
We do peaked views with the formula. I think it's like times 1.75 or something like that. On all the streaming platforms, on the app, on StreamMonkey, on YouTube, on Facebook, and then we just kind of combine it all together as one number from the views from the different spots, and it's good. And yeah, we use StreamMonkey. I'm sure there's other live streams that are really good, and I don't know much about all the other ones. This is one the church was already using, but it's great, man. It tells you where people are watching from, and the timings and all that stuff. It's really good.
Love it,
guys. I'm just so glad that you all hung out today. I'm very glad that we're connected. Let's stay connected. Let's keep this conversation going over time. Hit up that 1 p.m. meetup if you can. I know we all want to rebuild our teams, going back to on-site if that's a thing in your world yet. And just stay in touch.